Okay, so I don't typically, all good. I don't typically use hiking poles um, because lots of trails that I'm on, they're overgrown and things. And the main reason I don't use them is what I notice with poles, and this is personal preference, is, and think about this for yourself, the more contact points I have with the ground, the more things my nervous system has to scan for. If I only have 1 foot on the ground, it only needs to pay attention to that one contact point with the ground. So if I'm using poles, what I find is it's more fatiguing because the system is having to pay attention in space and on the ground to more contact points. So that's one reason I don't typically use hiking poles. But what I do see out on the trail is people using them really poorly. And I want to give you an example. So say I'm somebody and I want 1 pole, okay? And I'm thinking I'm going to use it for balance. Now, balance in my book is our ability to get from point to point, and to get from point to point. It's not about standing still. So if I'm standing still, have as many points in contact with the ground as you want. But to get moving, the more points you have in contact with the ground, the better your technique better be, because you have to get things out of the way for you to move into that space. So if I'm using 1 pole, what you'll see is people will do this, where it's like opposite, opposite, okay? Now the problem with this is I've just now put this pole in the space that now this leg has to go into. So I have to do this step to then get this foot here. Whereas if I use my pole on the same side as the leg I'm stepping, I don't run into that issue. So I can move a lot quicker and with less fatigue when I use the pole on the same side as the leg that I'm stepping, rather than trying to do this sort of shenanigans, because this is always getting in my way. Does that make sense? Any questions about anything I've said so far? Those of you that are on. Okay, so if I was using 1 pole, that would be the suggestion. If I was using 2 poles, that would also be my suggestion. Do not go like opposite, opposite, because now I've just put an obstruction in the way of my next step that I have to organize. Sync up and go same side, same side. More like a really good cross-country skier. Yes, also with having the poles in the hands, there's more collisions. Plus if the trail's overgrown, so I just don't use them. But if you use them, you're going to have a much better experience if you link up same arm, same leg as you go. Especially if you're using poles from a balance thing. Just even try that. If you stand on 1 leg and you're here, this is more work for the system than if I was to stand here. Because again, the 1/2 of the brain is organizing 1/2 of the body. So this is less taxing because I've just 1/2 of the brain is working. If I'm doing this stuff, both sides of my brain are having to do this. It's going to be more fatiguing. Yeah, so that's one thing to think about. Another way, if I was going to use poles, that I might use them, is to have them, I can't get these guys long enough, I don't think. Oh, maybe I can. Maybe I can. But I won't be able to put any pressure because oh no, okay. The other thing would be is to get the fulcrum point when you pole plant behind the foot. because then more of my mass is in front of that pivot point, and I can easily then get to the other side and I can do it quicker. Whereas if I pole plant, even if I'm using a single pole on that same side and I'm here, it's slower than if I get more of me in front of the fulcrum point of my foot and of the pole. That would be another thing to consider and pay attention to in terms of efficiency. Another one would be you could use the pole. So going downhill, I find a better way to use the pole than you'll see people and they've got this out in front and they're kind of using it as a braking mechanism, would be to shorten your pole all the way up. I don't like using them going downhill because it's too many things that can go wrong. But shorten your poles. You've got them either one or two in the hand. Going downhill, the way this can work better is use the pole and the arm to put more load into that stance leg. It's going to create a better anchor with the ground that then lets you get onto the other side. It helps slow you down. It helps you control what's going to happen. I could then use this once I get load into there, and to help me slow down as I go onto the other foot, maybe I take this guy and lengthen out that lever behind me. Okay? So that would be another way that you could use the poles that's going to be way more effective than the way I see people using them on the trail right now. So that's just what I popped on to share. So there you go. Have a good one. I'm headed out tomorrow for a sunrise hike and then more hiking this weekend. Reach out with your questions. Bye.